Have you ever wondered why the more kind you are, the less people seem to appreciate it? You go out of your way to help others. You're always there when someone needs a favor, and you try to be the good person in every situation. But somehow it backfires. People start expecting things from you. They stop saying thank you. They talk over you, ignore your needs, or worse, use your kindness against you. You feel invisible, taken for granted, and you start asking yourself, what am I doing wrong? The truth is, this isn't just your problem. It's something millions of people experience every single day. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with being kind. It means there's something missing from how we express that kindness. That's where the ancient wisdom of Stoicism comes in. In today's video, we're going to break down 8 powerful reasons why kindness often leads to disrespect, and more importantly, how you can protect your inner peace without hardening your heart. Before we begin, do us a quick favor. If you find value in this message, please like, share, and subscribe to Deep Dive Stoic. It really helps support the channel and allows us to keep bringing you timeless wisdom that transforms your life. Now let's dive into it. Reason number 1. Unlimited giving leads to losing respect. Let's start with something that might be hard to hear, but could change your life forever. Kindness without boundaries isn't kindness at all. It's self-abandonment. And when you give endlessly, without pause, without intention, or without limits, people won't see your generosity as noble. They'll see it as weakness. To truly understand this, let's look at the story of Gaius, a merchant in ancient Rome. Gaius was known far and wide not for his riches, but for his incredible generosity. He gave freely to anyone who asked. If a neighbor needed food, he gave it. If a traveler needed shelter, his door was open. If a friend needed money, he handed it over with no questions asked. At first, people admired him. They spoke of his kindness like it was a rare treasure. "What a good man," they said. "A heart of gold." But over time, something changed, and Gaius started to notice it. The praise faded. The smiles turned into expectations. People began to assume he would say yes to everything. They stopped asking. They started taking. He wasn't being appreciated anymore. He was being used. His once praised generosity became a silent obligation in everyone else's mind. And then came the moment that broke the illusion. A close friend asked to borrow a large sum of money. Gaius, of course, gave it willingly. But when he later asked for it back, the friend laughed in his face. "Come on," he scoffed. "You don't really need it. Besides, I thought you were the generous type." That was the moment Gaius saw the truth. His kindness hadn't earned him respect. It had earned him entitlement from others. And this didn't just hurt his pride. It made him question everything about himself. Had he been wrong to give? Was kindness a flaw? The Stoics would say no. Kindness is not a flaw. But kindness without strength, without boundaries, without discernment, that is what invites disrespect. That is what slowly drains your self-worth and leaves you wondering why the people you care about the most seem to care about you the least. This lesson is just as relevant today as it was in ancient Rome. You might be the kind of person who always shows up for others, the one who says yes to every request, who stretches yourself thin just to keep the peace. Maybe you lend money even when you can't afford it. Maybe you rearrange your life to help someone who won't even say thank you. And each time you do, something small chips away inside you. Until one day you realize you're tired, you're resentful, and worst of all, you feel invisible. But let's be clear, the problem isn't your kindness, it's that your kindness has no guardrails. And when kindness has no limits, people stop seeing it as a gift. They see it as your default setting. They assume you'll always say yes. And the moment you try to pull back, you're the bad guy. The one who changed. The one who's not being fair. But what they're really upset about isn't your change. It's that their free access to your energy has been revoked. The Stoics believed that virtue, real virtue, comes from wisdom, not from blind sacrifice. Marcus Aurelius wasn't loved because he was a pushover. He was loved and respected because he gave when it was right, not when it was expected. He served others, but he didn't serve everyone at the cost of himself. That's the key. If your kindness constantly costs you your peace, your energy, your dignity, then it's not kindness. It's a habit rooted in fear. Fear of saying no. Fear of being disliked. Fear of being alone. So how do you fix it? You start by drawing lines, not to keep people out, but to protect what's within. You begin asking yourself, am I doing this because I choose to or because I'm afraid not to? That single question can transform your life. Because the moment you give intentionally rather than automatically, you begin to teach others how to treat you. You begin to communicate. My kindness is not weakness, it's strength, guided by wisdom. Let this be your reminder. There is nothing noble about giving until you're empty, and there is nothing selfish about protecting your energy. If you truly want your kindness to matter, to be seen, to be valued, to make an impact, you must be willing to say, I am not available to be used. I give because I care, not because I'm afraid. When you embrace this, everything changes. You stop being overlooked. You stop being taken for granted. You stop being the invisible giver. And you become what the Stoics always aim to be, kind but never a fool. Reason number 2, people don't value what they get for free. Think about the last time you received something truly valuable, something you had to work for, wait for, or sacrifice to obtain. Maybe it was a degree, maybe it was a personal achievement, a close friendship, or your first major success. Whatever it was, you cherished it. Why? Because effort creates value. The harder something is to earn, the more we appreciate it, and this simple truth applies just as much to relationships and respect as it does to money and success. Yet when it comes to kindness, many people forget this rule completely. When you give your time, attention, help, or emotional energy freely and constantly, without requiring any level of appreciation or reciprocity, you start to notice something troubling. People stop saying thank you. They stop acknowledging your effort. They begin to treat your kindness not as a gift, but as a given. It's no longer special, it's just expected. The Stoics saw this clearly. They believed that what is constantly available becomes invisible. Seneca once compared human relationships to natural elements. We don't appreciate what's always around us. You breathe air every second of every day, but do you ever stop and say, wow, I'm so thankful for oxygen? No, because it's always there. And that's what happens to you when your kindness flows endlessly and without pause. You become like air, essential, yes, but unnoticed and unappreciated. Now some people will hear this and think, so what, I should stop being kind? Absolutely not. This isn't about withdrawing your compassion or becoming cold and distant. It's about being intentional. It's about knowing your value. Because when you constantly give without setting limits, you're not just being kind, you're teaching people how to treat you. You're silently telling them, I don't need acknowledgement, I don't need gratitude. You can take as much as you want. But deep down you do need it. We all do. We all want to feel seen, appreciated, respected. That's not weakness, that's human. And if you're constantly giving without receiving even the smallest gesture of recognition, that imbalance will build resentment inside you, whether you admit it or not. You'll start to feel bitter, drained, and confused. You'll wonder, why do I feel so underappreciated when I do so much for everyone? And the answer lies in this Stoic truth. People don't value what they get for free. This is why the people who set boundaries are often respected more than the people who give endlessly. It seems unfair, but it makes sense. When someone says yes to everything, their yes loses meaning. But when someone says yes occasionally, when it's meaningful and well considered, it stands out, it matters. Their kindness carries weight because it's not handed out casually. It's chosen, that's the difference. In fact, think about someone in your life who's generous but discerning. Someone who gives, but only when it aligns with their values or energy. You probably respect that person deeply, even admire them. Why? Because their kindness feels strong, not desperate. It feels empowered, not needy. That's the version of kindness the Stoics practiced. They didn't reject generosity, they refined it. Marcus Aurelius was known for helping others, but he didn't help everyone at every moment. He knew that when kindness is given without limit, it becomes diluted. He understood that part of being a virtuous person is knowing when to act and when to hold back. He saw kindness not as a duty, but as a choice, one guided by reason, not guilt or fear of rejection. So what does this mean for you? It means you must recognize the power of restraint. You must stop thinking that saying yes all the time makes you a better person. It doesn't. What makes you a better person is knowing when your energy will be valued and when it will be wasted. Give freely, but not blindly. Be generous, but not at the cost of your self-respect. And most importantly, understand that it's okay to expect appreciation. That expectation is not selfish, it's healthy. It's what keeps relationships balanced and meaningful. If people in your life have begun to take your kindness for granted, don't get angry. Get aware. Start asking yourself, who truly values what I give? and who just expects it. Once you see the difference, you'll start to protect your energy, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You'll stop trying to prove your worth through endless favors. You'll realize your value is never in how much you give. It's in knowing that what you give has meaning because it's not free. It's chosen. And when you start choosing who gets your kindness with more care, you'll notice something powerful. The people who truly matter will start appreciating you more, because what's rare is treasured. And when your kindness becomes a choice again, not an obligation, it becomes something that others learn to honor, not exploit. Reason number 3, the nice guy is always ignored. There's a painful pattern you've probably seen or lived through. The kind, generous person always available to help, always saying yes, always showing up, somehow ends up being the one no one listens to, no one respects, no one really sees. They become the ghost in the room, present, dependable, even necessary, but constantly overlooked. And here's the cruel irony. The more available they are, the less others value them. We often hear the phrase, nice guys finish last, and while it sounds like a tired cliche, it speaks to something real and painful in human dynamics. It's not kindness that puts them last. It's the lack of boundaries that often comes with it. The so-called nice guy becomes a placeholder in other people's lives. Not because he's weak, but because he never makes anyone earn his energy, his time, his effort. He offers everything up front, hoping it will create connection. But in reality, it breeds disconnection. Stoic philosophy teaches us that to be valued, you must first value yourself. When you make yourself overly available, when you're constantly trying to please everyone, you send a silent signal. My time isn't scarce. My energy isn't precious. I will say yes, no matter what. And that's when people stop taking you seriously. You're always there, so they don't need to consider your needs. You never say no, so they assume you don't have limits. And because you make life easier for them, they assume you must not have anything better going on. Slowly but surely, their respect for you fades, not because you're not worthy of it, but because you've trained them not to offer it. This doesn't mean people are inherently cruel. Most are just responding to the patterns you set. Human beings are wired to value what is earned, not what is given freely without context. And if your presence in their lives requires no effort, they will act accordingly. The Stoics were incredibly aware of this. They didn't chase approval. They didn't try to be liked. Instead, they focused on living with virtue, setting standards, and embodying self-respect. They knew that chasing validation from others was a trap, and that trying too hard to be liked often led to being overlooked entirely. Now ask yourself honestly, have you ever made yourself too available in the hopes that someone would finally appreciate you? Have you ever bent over backwards for someone who barely noticed? Have you watched them give their attention and respect to people who gave far less, but seemed to command more presence? That's not an accident. It's because presence, like anything of value, must have weight. And if you're always showing up without pause, without expectation, without discernment, then your presence starts to feel empty, no matter how much love you're offering. One of the harsh truths of life is this: when you make people work for your attention, they often value it more. That's not manipulation, it's nature. We value what is earned. We cherish what isn't always available. So the solution isn't to become cold or distant. It's to stop trying so hard to be liked and start focusing on being whole. When you root your identity in self-respect, you stop chasing crumbs of validation from others. You realize that you don't need to be everything for everyone. You don't need to say yes just to feel wanted. And the moment you stop doing that, something powerful happens. People start seeing you differently. They notice the change. They feel your presence more deeply. They listen when you speak. Why? Because your energy is no longer cheap. It's no longer guaranteed. It has gravity now because you've reclaimed your worth. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or dismissive. In fact, the opposite is true. You become someone who can offer kindness without resentment. You can give without feeling used. Because now your kindness is a choice, not a cry for attention. And that's what the Stoics meant when they spoke of dignity. They didn't say, don't be kind. They said, be kind from a place of strength. Stop being the person who always says yes because you're afraid to be forgotten. Be the person who says yes when it's right, when it's aligned, when it's powerful. That's the kind of presence that can't be ignored. That's the kind of energy that shifts rooms. So, if you've ever felt like you're invisible despite your efforts, like your kindness somehow pushes people away instead of bringing them closer. Don't shrink yourself. Don't become bitter. But don't keep giving without awareness either. Instead, pause, reflect. Ask yourself, am I being kind because it's true to who I am, or because I'm afraid to be alone? If it's the latter, it's time to realign. Because the person who is truly kind, with boundaries and strength, will never be invisible. They will be respected. Reason number 4, scarcity builds value. There's a reason gold is worth more than gravel. It's not just because gold is shiny, it's because it's rare. You can find gravel anywhere, in parking lots, driveways, roadsides. But gold, you have to dig for it, work for it, search with intent, and when you find it, it holds value precisely because it's not easily available. The same principle applies to your time, your energy, and yes, your kindness. When something is always available, people stop treasuring it, but when it's scarce, it suddenly becomes sacred. Now think about how you live your life. Are you handing out your time to everyone who asks? Are you always available, constantly saying yes, trying to keep up with every demand, every favor, every call for help? If so, don't be surprised when people start treating your presence like gravel, something ordinary, expected, even replaceable. The truth is, if you never say no, your yes loses meaning. If you're always there, people stop noticing. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't believe in being emotionally distant, but they absolutely believed in conserving their energy. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor with more responsibility than most of us could ever imagine, wrote in his journal not about how to please everyone, but how to live according to reason, virtue, and purpose. He understood that overextending yourself to please others often leads to losing yourself entirely, and once you lose your own sense of self, you have nothing truly valuable left to offer anyone. You see, the problem isn't kindness. The problem is saturation. The problem is giving too much of yourself without considering the cost, because when something is too accessible, it starts to feel cheap, even if it's incredibly valuable. That's human nature. We long for what is rare, for what feels earned. It's not that people are ungrateful by design, it's that we're wired to desire what we believe is special. And if your kindness is always available, always given without pause or standard, it loses its sense of value in the eyes of others. Let's be real. We live in a world where attention is currency, time is scarce, energy is limited, and yet many people treat their own presence like it's bottomless. They pour themselves into everyone, hoping it will make them loved, respected, appreciated, but instead it makes them exhausted and invisible. Why? Because they're violating one of the most powerful truths of life. Scarcity creates value. Look at relationships. The people we cherish most are often the ones who challenge us, who have standards, who give us their attention and love, but in a way that feels intentional. Their time feels meaningful because they don't give it to just anyone. Their words carry weight because they're not constantly speaking just to fill silence. Their kindness feels different because it's not reflexive, it's thoughtful. You never feel entitled to their generosity, you feel grateful for it. That's the kind of kindness that commands respect. So how do you shift into this energy without becoming cold or aloof? You start by creating space. You begin to ask, does this person deserve my time? Is this request aligned with my values, or am I saying yes just to avoid guilt? Am I helping because it matters, or because I'm afraid to disappoint? These questions don't make you selfish. They make you conscious. And that's the foundation of Stoic strength, awareness. Another powerful move? Pause before you say yes. Even if you plan to help, take a moment. Let your agreement be considered, not automatic. When people see that you value your time, they begin to value it too. When they see you choose your kindness rather than give it by default, they realize it has weight. It means something. And meaning creates value. This also means learning the art of walking away. Sometimes the greatest display of self-respect is silence, distance, refusal. Not out of anger, but out of principle. If someone consistently takes without giving, if they disrespect your boundaries, if they only show up when they need something, your absence will speak louder than any confrontation. That's the paradox of scarcity. It teaches others to listen without you needing to shout. And don't think for a second that this kind of behavior makes you less kind. In truth, it makes your kindness more pure. Because now, when you help someone, it's because you genuinely want to, not because you're expected to. When you show up for someone, it's because you believe it matters. not because you're afraid to say no. And when you give your energy, people feel it more deeply, because they know it wasn't given lightly. So, if you've ever felt like people treat you like an option, even though you've treated them like a priority, here's the lesson. Stop offering gold at gravel prices. You are not here to be everyone's solution, everyone's emotional crutch, everyone's safety net. You are here to live with purpose, to protect your peace, and to give from a place of strength, not depletion. The moment you understand that your presence is your power, you'll stop giving it away to those who haven't earned it. And when your kindness becomes scarce, not absent, but intentional, it becomes more powerful than you ever imagined. Reason number 5. Kindness without boundaries looks like weakness. Well, here's one of the hardest truths to accept when you're a kind person. If you don't set boundaries, people will eventually assume you don't have any strength. They'll interpret your warmth as passivity, your generosity as desperation, and your compassion as compliance. And slowly, without even meaning to, they'll start to disrespect you, not because you're unworthy of respect, but because they don't see anything in you pushing back. We've all been there. You go out of your way to be helpful. You try to be patient, polite, and giving, even when people test your limits. You believe that being good means being endlessly available, but over time you start to notice a pattern. The more you give, the less people value it. Worse, they start treating you like you're not even capable of saying no. They make jokes at your expense. They assume you'll always help, no matter how badly they treat you. And eventually, they stop seeing you as a person. They see you as a resource, a convenience. Why does this happen? Because in the absence of boundaries, kindness can easily look like weakness. It's not that people set out to walk over you. It's that you silently teach them that it's okay. You never push back. You never say, this isn't okay. And if you're always swallowing your frustration, always putting others first without ever making space for your own needs, people begin to assume you don't have any. The Stoics warned about this. They believed that virtue was not about submission, it was about strength through wisdom. Marcus Aurelius never said, be nice to everyone no matter what. He said, be in control of yourself. And that's what boundaries are, self-control in action. They're not walls that block people out. They're gates that protect your peace, your energy, and your dignity. Without them, even the purest kindness becomes diluted and eventually disrespected. Let's break this down even further. Imagine someone offers you free coffee every morning. At first, you're grateful. You might even compliment them and thank them daily. But then, weeks pass. They keep showing up. You start expecting it. You stop saying thank you. And one day, if they forget or are late, you feel annoyed, entitled. Where's my coffee? That's human nature. We normalize what we don't earn. And if the giver never sets a limit, never says not today, we start assuming they never will. Now replace the coffee with your time, your favors, your emotional support. If you're always available, always agreeable, and never draw the line, then people will begin to believe you have no line. And once they believe that, your kindness becomes background noise. Worse, it becomes a tool they use to their advantage, not necessarily out of malice, but because you've never shown them any reason not to. So what do you do about it? You start by getting brutally honest with yourself. Ask, am I being kind because it's who I am, or because I'm afraid of conflict? Do I say yes because I want to, or because I'm scared of how people will react if I say no? If your kindness is coming from fear, guilt, or insecurity, then it's not truly kindness. It's self-protection dressed up as generosity. And that kind of kindness doesn't earn respect. It earns dependency, obligation, and emotional exhaustion. True kindness comes from strength. It comes from knowing your value so well that you don't need to overextend yourself to prove it. It comes from being able to say, I love helping, but I'm not available right now. It comes from showing up for people without losing yourself in the process. And ironically, the moment you start setting boundaries, people begin to respect you more. They may push back at first. They may test you. But eventually they'll realize that your kindness has depth. It's not just surface-level approval seeking. It's intentional. It's mature. It's real. And yes, some people will leave when you begin to set boundaries. Let them. Because anyone who only stayed because you were easy to use was never respecting you. They were consuming you. Your goal is not to be liked by everyone. It's to be respected by the right people. And the people who truly value you will respect your boundaries. They'll appreciate your kindness more when they know it comes with standards. Seneca once said, "If you wish to be loved, love wisely." Not endlessly, not blindly, wisely. That means choosing when to give and when to hold back. It means saying no without guilt. It means being kind without sacrificing your voice, your energy, or your identity. When you do this, your kindness becomes powerful. It becomes something people admire, not because you're always available, but because your presence means something. So if you've ever wondered why people don't take you seriously, why they cross your lines without hesitation, or why they assume you'll always be there, look at your boundaries. If they're weak or non-existent, it's time to rebuild them. Not to shut people out, but to elevate the kind of relationships you allow in. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're sacred. They tell the world, this is how I expect to be treated. And they remind you that your energy is not for everyone. It's for those who see it, respect it, and reciprocate it. And when your kindness is backed by boundaries, you'll notice something powerful. People will start treating you like someone who matters. Because now you're not giving to be liked. You're giving from a place of wholeness. And that's the kind of kindness that changes lives, not just theirs, but yours. Reason number 6. People respect no more than yes. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's one of the most powerful lessons you'll ever learn. People respect you more when you say no than when you always say yes. Why? Because yes is easy. Yes is comfortable. Yes keeps the peace. But no requires strength. No demands self-respect. No creates definition. And people respect what is defined. Many of us grow up believing that saying yes is the key to being loved. We're taught to be helpful, agreeable, polite. And while there's value in cooperation, the danger comes when you start saying yes out of fear. Fear of being disliked, rejected, abandoned. That kind of yes isn't kindness. It's self-betrayal. And over time it becomes a habit. You agree to things you don't want to do. You sacrifice your time, your energy, your priorities, just to keep others happy. But here's what you start to notice. The more you say yes, the more people demand. They don't thank you. They expect you. And when you finally say no, they act shocked, offended, sometimes even angry. Why? Because your endless yes has trained them to believe you have no boundaries. And when you finally show one, it breaks the illusion they've been living under, that you exist solely to serve their needs. But in that uncomfortable moment, you begin reclaiming your power. And the Stoics would say that moment is where true respect begins. Stoicism teaches us that a wise person is not swayed by approval or rejection. They act according to their values, not their fears. Saying no is not an act of cruelty, it's an act of clarity. Seneca wrote, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." If you're constantly available to everyone, you lose yourself. You become stretched thin, watered down, invisible. And invisibility breeds disrespect. Why? Because no one respects what they can control. They may like it, they may use it, but they don't admire it. Think about the people you respect the most in your own life. Chances are they don't say yes to everything. They don't please everyone. They have standards, values, and limits. And when they say no, you might feel disappointed, but you also take them more seriously. You recognize that their time matters, that their yes has weight, and that's the key. When your no is firm, your yes becomes valuable. Now here's the hard part, learning to say no without feeling like you're doing something wrong. Many of us associate no with rejection, conflict, or failure. But in truth, no is simply a boundary, and boundaries are the foundation of any relationship built on respect. When you say no from a place of calm, clarity, and purpose, you're not closing doors, you're opening space. Space for authenticity. Space for real connection. Space for people to meet you where you are, instead of dragging you where they want you to be. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your time or energy. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace over pressure. And you certainly don't owe anyone a version of yourself that only exists to avoid discomfort. The people who truly care about you won't just tolerate your boundaries, they'll appreciate them. Because deep down we all want relationships where we're allowed to be whole, not just useful. Still, it's not easy at first. The first few times you say no, you'll feel guilt. You'll worry that you're being selfish, that people will walk away, that they'll stop liking you, and maybe some will. But here's the truth. Anyone who abandons you because you honored your limits was never there for the real you. They were there for what you could give them. Let them go. They were never your people. And here's where it gets even more powerful. The moment you start saying no, you begin attracting a different kind of energy. People who respect boundaries. People who give, not just take. People who ask how you're doing, not just what you can do for them. In short, people who see you, not just your usefulness. That's the paradox. Saying no doesn't push away the right people. It filters them in. It tells the world, I know who I am. I know what I value. I know what I will and will not allow. And that kind of clarity is magnetic. That kind of strength is rare. And that kind of self-respect, stoic, silent, unshakable, is what earns the deepest respect from others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. And being good doesn't mean being a doormat. Being good means standing firm in your values. It means protecting your energy. It means understanding that every yes is a commitment, and if it's not aligned, it's a lie. So, be honest, be direct, and don't be afraid to say no. Start small. Say no to something that drains you. Say no to someone who only shows up when they want something. Say no to guilt that tells you you're not allowed to rest. And watch what happens. Watch how your inner peace grows. Watch how people start listening more when you speak. Watch how your yes begins to matter again. Because in the end, being kind doesn't mean being endlessly available. It means being wise with your energy. And when you finally learn to say no without guilt, you'll unlock the most stoic, powerful form of kindness there is, the kind that respects others but never forgets to respect yourself. Reason number 7, reward appreciation, not entitlement. Kindness is powerful, but only when it's recognized and respected. The moment it becomes expected, demanded, or assumed, its value disappears. And here lies one of the greatest mistakes kind-hearted people make. They continue giving even when there's no appreciation, only entitlement. Let's be honest, you've probably felt it. That moment when someone you've supported, helped, or stood by doesn't thank you, they just expect you to do it again. There's no gratitude in their tone, no recognition of your effort. They act as if your help is a service they're owed, not a gift you chose to give. And even worse, if you stop giving, if you hesitate even once, they don't ask what's wrong. They accuse you of being selfish, cold, different. That's when you realize they were never truly grateful. They were just dependent. The Stoics would tell us, don't blame them, observe the pattern. Because in every relationship, romantic or platonic, family or friend, we teach people how to treat us by what we tolerate. And when you continue giving to someone who shows no appreciation, you're not just being nice. You're reinforcing entitlement. You're silently saying, you don't have to value what I offer. I'll keep giving anyway. And that creates an imbalance, one that over time turns toxic. Seneca once said, "A benefit is to be valued not by how much is given, but by the spirit in which it is received." That means your kindness should be directed toward people who value it, not those who exploit it. If someone genuinely appreciates your help, your time, your support, then your kindness becomes something beautiful. It builds connection, trust, respect. But when someone takes you for granted, your kindness becomes something else. It becomes fuel for their ego, a resource they believe they own, a button they can press at will. And that's not what kindness is supposed to be. Kindness is a choice, a gift from one soul to another. It should never be automatic, and it should never be taken for granted. The Stoics believe that we should give not out of guilt or habit, but out of virtue and intention. That means looking closely at how people respond to your effort. Do they acknowledge it, or do they assume it? Do they say thank you? Or do they act like it's your job? Now, some people will hear this and say, well, real kindness doesn't ask for anything in return. And yes, that's true on the surface. You don't give just to get something back, but that doesn't mean you allow others to become entitled to your energy. There's a difference between selfless giving and self-destructive giving. The former enriches everyone involved. The latter drains you and enables others to take without limit. And eventually, when you're empty, they leave. Because they were never in it for you. They were in it for what you could give. So what's the solution? You start rewarding appreciation, not just with words, but with your time, your attention, your effort. You learn to observe, not just give. Who checks in on you? Who says thank you without being prompted? Who respects your time, your boundaries, your energy? Those are the people who deserve more of you. And the rest? You don't need to hate them. You don't need to confront them. You simply stop giving to people who show no respect for what you offer. This isn't about revenge. It's about alignment. When you invest your kindness into those who value it, it grows. It multiplies. It returns to you in the form of love, trust, and deep connection. But when you invest it into those who only see it as their right, it vanishes. It becomes invisible. You become invisible. Think of it like watering a plant. If the soil absorbs and uses the water, the plant grows. But if the soil is dry, cracked, and rejects the water, your effort goes to waste. You wouldn't keep pouring into that ground endlessly, would you? So why do we do it with people? Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that the actions of others were not in his control, but his responses were. You can't force someone to appreciate you, but you can decide who gets your time, who gets your heart, who gets your energy. And once you make that shift, once you start giving to people who reflect your kindness back, you'll feel the difference. You'll stop feeling drained. You'll start feeling fulfilled. Because here's the truth. Appreciation fuels relationships. It tells you, I see you. I don't take you for granted. I value what you give. And when that's present, kindness becomes a beautiful exchange, not a one-sided sacrifice. But without it, even the purest generosity starts to feel like a burden. So if you're tired of feeling overlooked, tired of giving and getting nothing back, tired of being surrounded by people who only notice when you stop helping, step back, observe, shift your focus, start pouring into people who light up when you show up, who say thank you without you needing to ask, who see you as a human being, not just a solution to their problems. That's not selfishness, that's wisdom. That's Stoic clarity in action. And once you start living this way, once you reserve your kindness for those who appreciate it, you'll realize something life-changing. Your kindness was never the problem. You were just giving it to the wrong people. Reason number 8, presence commands more than approval. Let's face it, most people are raised to chase approval. We want to be liked. We want to fit in. We want people to smile when we walk into a room, nod in agreement when we speak, and praise us when we give. It feels good to be validated. It feels safe. But here's the problem. When your goal becomes approval, your presence loses its power. And in trying to please everyone, you end up commanding nothing. No attention, no respect, and eventually, no space. This is where the final reason comes in. Real respect isn't earned by seeking approval. It's earned by commanding presence. And presence, unlike approval, doesn't beg. It doesn't shrink. It doesn't apologize for existing. It stands firm. It speaks less, but means more. It doesn't need the room to clap. It simply requires the room to notice. The Stoics understood this long before the world was obsessed with likes and followers. Marcus Aurelius, a man who had the highest authority in Rome, didn't write about seeking praise or popularity. He wrote about embodying virtue, about standing tall in your principles, about being unshaken in the face of judgment. Because he knew something that most people today still haven't realized. People respect those who respect themselves, even if they don't always like them. The truth is, chasing approval is exhausting. You find yourself saying yes when you mean no, laughing at jokes that hurt you, staying silent when you want to speak, all because you're afraid of being disliked. But here's the paradox. The more you seek to be liked, the less people take you seriously. They sense your need, they sense your fear, and they assume that because you're so eager to please, you'll never push back. And what happens next? You get sidelined. Not because you aren't valuable, but because your presence doesn't demand respect. But presence, that's a different story. Presence is when you walk into a room and people feel you before you speak. It's when your energy communicates confidence without arrogance. It's when your boundaries are clear, your intentions are honest, and your actions align with your values. Presence is magnetic because it doesn't try too hard. It simply is. And that's what the Stoics modeled. Not performance, but power. Quiet, grounded, unwavering power. How do you build that kind of presence? You start by letting go of the need to be liked. That doesn't mean you become rude or unkind. It means you stop bending who you are just to fit someone else's expectations. You say what you mean, you own your space, you stop apologizing for existing. When you speak with conviction. When you say no, it's clear. When you give, it's from a full cup, not from desperation. And perhaps most importantly, you stop over-explaining. People who command presence don't justify every choice. They don't need everyone's approval to feel confident. They act from a place of internal authority, not external permission. They don't seek applause, they seek alignment. They aren't focused on being impressive, they're focused on being authentic. This is why people chase those with presence. You've seen it. The one person in the group who says very little, but everyone listens when they do. The person who isn't loud, but their energy makes everyone pay attention. They don't give to get attention. They give because they are grounded. That's real power. And once you learn to stop chasing approval, that power begins to grow inside you. Now let's connect this back to kindness. When your kindness is driven by approval seeking, it loses weight. People sense that you're trying to win them over, and that makes your kindness feel like a transaction, not a gift. But when your kindness comes from presence, when it's calm, intentional, unapologetic, it commands respect. Because it's not based on need, it's based on strength. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to be clear. Clear in your values. Clear in your boundaries. Clear in who you are and what you offer. That's what Stoicism teaches us. Presence over performance. Integrity over image. Respect over approval. So ask yourself, are you trying to be liked, or are you trying to be respected? Are you giving because it's who you are, or because you're afraid of being invisible? Because the truth is, you're not here to be tolerated. You're here to be seen, felt, remembered. Not because you chase people down, but because you stand still and let your truth speak for itself. Let go of the exhausting game of people-pleasing. Stop editing yourself to win others over. Instead, focus on becoming so deeply rooted in your principles, your values, and your worth that your presence becomes undeniable. When you do that, you'll find that approval may come, but you no longer need it, because your presence will speak louder than any applause. In the end, remember this: approval is borrowed, but presence is owned. And once you own your presence, you'll stop being someone who's merely liked and start becoming someone who's truly respected. Because your presence will speak louder than any applause. And when you finally begin to live that truth, when your kindness flows from confidence instead of fear, from clarity instead of approval seeking, you'll notice something remarkable. People won't just see you differently, you'll start to see yourself differently. You'll stop trying to earn your place in the world and start standing in it, fully, unapologetically, and powerfully. If there's one thing you take away from this video, let it be this: your kindness is not the problem, it never was. But when it's given without wisdom, without boundaries, and without strength, it invites the very disrespect you're trying to avoid. The Stoics didn't teach us to stop being kind. They taught us to be kind with clarity, intention, and self-respect. And when you live that way, your kindness becomes a force, one that uplifts others, but never diminishes you. If this message resonated with you, do us a favor. Like, share, and subscribe to Deep Dive Stoic so we can keep bringing you timeless wisdom that strengthens your mind and sharpens your spirit. And if you're ready for your next step on this journey, watch one of the suggested videos now appearing on your screen. It might just shift your mindset forever. Thank you for being a part of this channel. Thank you for valuing growth. And most of all, thank you for choosing strength over silence, wisdom over approval, and presence over performance. Until next time, stay grounded, stay clear, and stay stoic.